is going to be different because it relates to computers, technologies, and I hope all of you like technologies, and who doesn't nowadays. Today we will start with a bit of introductory notions, terminologies, and history of computer-assisted language learning, and then we will start talking about some applications, and then we will talk about NLP a bit, and then we will move to corpus linguistics. So the three main areas of this course is CAL, NLP, and corpus linguistics. We will start with CAL, some few lectures, very few about NLP, and then the rest about corpus linguistics, and then we end the course. So today is the start by talking about CAL, computer-assisted language learning. These are the three main areas that I talked about: CAL, NLP, corpus linguistics. But let me give you some brief idea about each one before we start. CAL, we know it is an acronym of computer-assisted language learning. NLP, well, briefly, NLP nowadays is connected to, let me put it very easy to you, is about artificial intelligence, about machine translation, about how humans interact with technologies. Nowadays, we have different types of magical interactions between humans and machines or technologies. There is in the past something called text recognition, where a machine can recognize a text. Now there is voice recognition, where machines can interact with a human by voice. So all of these is under NLP and computational linguistics. Corpus linguistics, a corpus is a collection of language materials, and let me give you this very simple example. Let's say that you want to, if you collect all the newspapers in English, and you would say, I want to study, for example, how people write in a newspaper. If you collect all the newspaper, not all of them, but if you collect a fair amount of newspapers, this is called a corpus. So a corpus can be a collection of texts, written text, or oral conversations, or it could be any sort of communication between different people. So it could be by text, or it could be orally. If you collect all of these in one place to study them for different purposes, this is called corpus, and we will talk about it in detail, inshallah. So let's start with CAL. Some people prefer to say it CAL. I prefer to say it CAL. So what is CAL? CAL is an acronym of computer-assisted or aided language learning. Well, from the past, different people used computers to facilitate language learning. This is the basic notion of CAL. I use computers because I want to facilitate learning. I want to make it fun. I want to make it more lively, more vivid to my students. So I want to use computers to create different environments, to break the routine of the classrooms. I use computers to aid or to facilitate or to assist language learning. This is the basic notion of using computers. For the purposes of this course, we take CAL to embrace any computer software that is usable in some way to help language learners, whether intended for that purpose or not, and whether directly used by them or used by someone else to create a conventional material for example, course book which learners use. So for the sake of this course, when we say CAL, it means also the CAL software, the CAL applications that we are going to use for our learners. Let's say that, for example, you have or you want to teach your students vocabulary. There are 100 websites or 100 maybe applications created by other people to help you. So you buy these applications, or you might get them for free, and then you teach them to your students. So any sort of these applications, we are going to say CAL. We don't need to say software or applications or computer applications. When we say CAL, it means that we are talking about a software, whether it is used by the learners themselves or used by someone else who is the instructor or the teacher. So though the acronym CAL implies a limitation to language learning, we don't, as some do, distinguish that from computer-aided language acquisition, CASLA. So people, especially acquisition people, say, well, there is a difference between CAL and CASLA. Sometimes we use computers to aid not learning, but also the acquisition of language. I myself, and I hope you with me, that we are not going to distinguish between CAL and CASLA. These all trivia, slight differences make complications, and I don't want to complicate things for you. So there is a difference. So some people say there is a difference between CAL and CASLA, but I don't see that difference. And we include in our scope language used by learners, and of course language teaching, computer-aided language testing. CAL is often discussed separately from CAL, and for various reasons will not be much focus on this course. We have another acronym, which is CALT, Computer Assisted Language Testing. When we use computers to test people, this is called Computer Assisted Language Testing. So we have two modes for testing people. Either we test them through paper and pencil, as you do in your courses, or we test people through computers. Students sit in front of a computer and they answer their exams. So this is the paper and pencil test mode, and we have the computer assisted language testing mode. Some people say, well, there is a difference between CAL and CALT. Well, yes, there is a point here, but still we are not going to focus about CALT in our course. We don't have time to talk about CALT, the importance of CALT, how it can help us with a huge number of students. We don't have time to talk about that. So in this course, we are not going to talk about CALT. And for various reasons, will not be much focus on this course. Lack of time and lack of the software. Yes, because of time, and we don't have the software. We want to show you different types of software, but I don't have them, and it is very costly to have them in this course. We are also excluding use of computers in AL and ELT, Applied Linguistics, and English Language Teaching, Research in General, KASLR, and in the learning of linguistics rather than language. Yes, we won't be talking about the relationship between CAL and research. We may talk a bit about this, but it's not the focus of this course. Our focus is how do we use CAL to facilitate learning, rather than how CAL help us in research about applied linguistics and about English language teaching. though there is an unclear borderline here, as much language teaching involves teaching about language, especially grammar, or raising awareness of language forms, and so resemble simple linguistics. Yes, well, we cannot say there is separation between the two things. If we talk about the use of CAL to facilitate learning, we are unconsciously going unconsciously to talk about linguistics and applied linguistics or English language teaching. So there is a borderline, but just to make it clear for you that the focus of our course is how to use CAL in language learning. There are many other acronyms and terms around with a broader scope than CAL, as I told you before, or scope overlapping with CAL. They refer to areas of theory and research which have implications for CAL. It is computer-aided learning, just CAL, C-A-L, C-A-I, C-B-E, T-E-L-L, telematics, HCI, AI, NLP, corpus linguistics, and nowadays we have something called mobile technology, mobile-aided language learning. So from CAL, we are nowadays moving to MAL, mobile-aided language learning. On these neighboring areas, see Chappell 2001, Chapter 2, and Levy 1997, Chapter 3, and pages 77 to 82. These two books are very important in computer-assisted language learning in general. If you read them, they are very useful, especially for those who have great interest in CAL. So as I told you, there are different acronyms about CAL, but let's stick to one acronym, which is CAL, and then we will talk later about NLP and corpus linguistics. CAL tasks include what may be otherwise referred to as games, exercises, activities, materials, even tests, and just ordinary use of facilities like word processing. So when we talk about CAL tasks, it is any task that involves using computers, such as word processing. If you use word process, this is use of computers in your learning or in your teaching. Let's say that, well, you are sitting in front of your computer and you are taking notes, making tables, making colorful notes, making summaries. All of this is CAL. Sitting now in front of your computer and watching me now, this is CAL. So CAL, I would say, is becoming an integral part, one element, one compulsory element in our life nowadays, and cannot be separated from our learning or from our teaching. So it refers to any games, exercises, materials, even tests that facilitate language learning, as simple as using Microsoft Word or any type of word processing application. Sometimes they are fully determined by the program. Sometimes they are largely in the hands of the teacher or learner using the software. They may be done in a class or at home, etc. So these applications can be used at home or can be used at classroom. You see from this introduction, you would say, well, these are very basic. I know them. Yes, I know that you know most of this information, but we have to take it step by step. Building knowledge, sometimes there is some types of deficits in your knowledge. There are some gaps in your knowledge. You know something about CAL, but not fully. So this is the importance of this course, that it builds up all of your knowledge from scratch until you fulfill all the objectives of the course. I know that most of you know, well, yes, I know that there are software and applications that I can do at home or at classroom, but this is knowledge. Sometimes basic knowledge, basic facts are well known, but we have to say them. Thinking about CAL means thinking about many of the same things one considers when thinking about materials for language learning, teaching, course books, visual aids like posters or videos, pen and paper exercises, dictionaries. So if you want to think about CAL as a teacher or as a learner, you would think the same like with ordinary paper and pen exercises. So let's say that you want to have a kind of an exercise. You would sit in front of the textbook thinking about which questions should I include, how many questions, how difficult they are. It's the same with the CAL software or with the CAL application. You would think how many questions, how difficult they are, what are the answers, what the level of the students, blah, blah, blah. So thinking about CAL is the same like thinking about the ordinary exercises. So it's thinking about many of the same things one considers when thinking about materials for language learning or teaching. Both involve something physical that teachers and learners use alongside a teaching method, syllabus, etc., in a taught program, or which may be just used independently by the learner. Both have to be bought or pirated. Yes. So with CAL software, unfortunately, either you need to buy the software or you buy a pirated version of it, a cracked one, unfortunately. And myself, I do not recommend pirated versions of software or cracked software, but this is what's happening nowadays. If you don't buy an application, you see a lot of people looking for a cracked version of the application, which is illegal. Both have a tangible form, but at the same time, when exploited, form part of a less tangible task or the like. This parallel leads us to the conclusion that there are three main areas of concern. The power of CAL for a fuller expositions, attempting to relate this to the Richards and Rogers framework for analyzing teaching methods. What does that mean? I know it is all philosophical, theoretical about CAL, but it says that with CAL there are three main elements, or three main concerns: development, use, and evaluation. Any CAL software or any CAL application, you need to develop the application, then use it, and then you evaluate it whether it is suitable or not. This is the framework of CAL, and we are going to discuss them in details next class, inshallah. We are going to focus about evaluation. Very, very important. We know how to evaluate CAL software. Why? Because I know that most of you, they are not application developers, they are not software developers, and using CAL software is not accessible to all of you, but evaluating the program is is accessible to you. Why? Because you can use the application at your home and then you evaluate. But using the application with different people is difficult. You need to have classroom, you need to have students, especially if you are not a teacher. So we have development, use or implementation, and 3, evaluation. So development, creation, the principles and processes of writing software or authoring new materials within some existing software knowledge. Compare materials development, course, book, writing. Yes, course, book writing. If you want to write a book, it's almost similar to authoring or developing a CAL application. They are not different. Writing a book and designing or developing a CAL program, it's almost the same. It's very difficult. You need to have some expertise, you need to have some knowledge, you need to have some background about creating an application or developing an application. Number 2, use or implementation, how teachers use software with their learners. So as I said, you need to be at least a teacher with some students, and the availability of the application is very important to be implemented in our out of class, individually or in groups, for what sort of task, integrated with other aspects of the teaching learning process or not, and how the learners use the software, which may be differently from how the teacher plans, or indeed entirely independently of school. So their processes and strategies. Compare discussion of the role of materials like course books or tapes in a course. Different task types they can be involved in. Learners' use of materials like dictionaries or clubs out of class, unknown to the teacher, etc. So what does that mean? It means basically that we want to compare the ordinary normal materials from textbooks with the implementation or the use of CAL, whether learners use these CAL applications by themselves at home, and how do they interact with them, and how compared to how they are using these ordinary materials at home. So it's a bit or a kind of comparison between using normal or ordinary materials like textbooks, the paper and pen exercises, with using CAL software. And I'm going to mention to you next class a very important example about one of the software that's very popular in teaching English grammar. And you will know what I am talking about. This comparison between the paper and pen exercises or materials, let's call them, and using CAL software. Evaluation, how to decide what is good or bad about software, including inevitably considering what is a good or bad use of the software. Compare materials, evaluation. Again, Chappell, 2001. Chappell is one of the leading, famous, one of the figures in the field of CAL. She has a book about this materials evaluations, normal or ordinary materials evaluation compared to CAL evaluation or CAL software evaluation. We need to know how to decide what is good or bad. So we need some kind of a checklist or some kind of framework about evaluating the CAL software, which I am going to talk about in detail next class, inshallah. So what we have studied nowadays, what we have studied so far is about brief idea about CAL and the 3 main concerns or elements or framework about CAL. development, use, and evaluation. Now let's have just a bit of a historical background about CAL, history of CAL, in terms of the development of hardware program types, relation to ideas about language learning and teaching. This is filled out in class. See also Chapel 2001, Chapter 1, and Levy 1997, Chapter 2, and the online history of CAL for more information. But let's have some synopsis about the history of CAL. The computer as big as a room. We started computer as big as a room. And then entire courses like that of Plato organized at a few universities, edulingualism. So back many years ago, 100 years ago, we used to have computers as big as a room, and then just few universities organized different materials like Plato and others into these computers, and we had what is called the edulingualism method, where we used to have edu to aid language learning. This is called edulingualism. That was the era of maybe many years ago. And then the arrival of the home school computer, Sinclair, Apple, BBC, CAL task as ancillary and produced by many small publishers such as WIDA and even teacher enthusiasts, attempts to fit it in with a communicative approach. Then we had another era where we had some computers, home computers and school computers, like when Apple started this, and BBC, but there is another development after that, the era of the powerful PC and Mac. We had more powerful PCs, faster than before, in different sizes, in different shapes, with different specifications. We used to have these Intel and Mac computers. We started to have some professional experts to write some software, but lack of transfer of much software from earlier platforms. In that era, we had all of these powerful, speedy computers, but we had a problem that we couldn't transfer all the materials and software from the old big computers to these computers for different reasons, different versions, different specifications, compatibility issues with the old computers. And then we had the era of PC and CD. Well, when we had CDs, well, that was wow. This is very, very advanced, and this is very convenient for learning, where we had all the materials stored in CDs rather than on PCs. They are movable. We can use them anywhere. Multimedia, when we had all of these multimedia, video and edu learning materials, software out of the hands of teachers. Yes, they are at our hands. We can use them anywhere. Largely audiolingual in mood. New attempts to entire courses. So with this movement, with this development, we started to design new software, new attempts to design new software, and also to design material. And we are back now to the audiolingual method. Basically, the audiolingual method that you use audio and video to teach the language. And then we had a new development. Instead of CDs, we started to have all of these flash storage. We have this very little USB flash storage. We have now different sizes of flash storage, and also new technologies appeared. And with the internet, with the era of internet, CAL became more evident, became one of the facilitator to language learning. Teachers as selector, learner centered. Yes, with the internet, started the teacher to be very selective. They select materials from internet, and also learners started to be or to become more centered. They can learn by themselves. They go to the internet and they learn by themselves. This is the meaning of learner centered. And then we had the future convergence of media and omnimedia. What do you mean by omnimedia and multimedia? This is the revolution of technology, where we started to use different type of multimedia. We use flash, we use, instead of just audio and video, now we have different technologies like using Java, using flash, use different types of technology which are not of our concern today. Social networking, well, yes, I think this is the next step. We use social networking to learn language. We have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have Kik, we have whatever. There are different ways to learn language. Even if the purpose of using these applications is for fun or entertainment, still learning is happening. And we cannot say that while we are surfing the internet for fun or for entertainment or for social networking, learning is not happening. No. Every day, every single moment that passes by you, still you are learning, and learning is taking place. And I think this is the next revolution of technology with language. So that's all about the history of CAL. We started from computer as big as a room, and now with computer as small as maybe the palm of your hand. And hopefully all of these will help us to just recognize and to be aware of how CAL started with learning and how it's continuing to be part of our learning. That's it for today. We'll see you inshallah next week inshallah. Thank you for watching and attending this lecture, and all the best to you.